In 1998, Central America faced one of its most devastating natural disasters of unprecedented magnitude. It was a disaster that would forever be etched in the history of the subcontinent. Among the countries affected, Honduras bore the brunt of its fury. This is the story of Hurricane Mitch. On October 10, 1998, a tropical wave that formed off the coast of West Africa began moving towards the Atlantic Ocean. This type of wave, also known as tropical easterly wave, are common in the Atlantic Ocean during the Atlantic hurricane season, a period in a year from June 1st through November 30th, when tropical or subtropical cyclones are most likely to form in the North Atlantic Ocean. These waves weren't a new thing, so it wasn't unusual to assume a tropical wave such as this one wouldn't be much of a problem. However, to the surprise and dismay of the meteorologists, this wave did not dissipate or remain in the Atlantic Ocean. It kept moving until it reached the southwestern part of the Caribbean Sea. The wave then executed a small loop, and while doing so, 12 days after commencing its voyage, on the 22nd of October of 1998, it intensified into Tropical Storm Mitch. And 3 days later, on October 25th, it developed an eye and intensified into a Category 5 hurricane, marking the beginning of the disaster that was to come. The hurricane began moving up towards Jamaica, only to then turn eastwards, now reaching the extreme sustained winds of 180 miles per hour. This hurricane became something to fear. Initially, the National Hurricane Center believed it would move towards the Yucatan Peninsula. However, the hurricane instead moved towards Central America, and the one looking to be affected the most was Honduras. The local governments tried to do something with the little time they had. Honduras started evacuating citizens of the Bay Islands and readying air and naval resources, and the governments of Guatemala and Belize issued a purple alert. However, this would not be enough. On the 29th of October 1998, Hurricane Mitch made landfall on Honduras, first going over the Bay Islands and then entering the mainland, slowly moving west, wreaking havoc wherever it passed. There was no place in Honduras that wasn't affected by the hurricane. Honduras, being the country where Mitch made landfall, made it into the most affected. However, it wasn't the only country that was affected by Hurricane Mitch. Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Belize were heavily affected as well. By October 31st, due to no longer being on the water, the hurricane began weakening to the point that it became a tropical depression. It then hit the Bay of Campeche in Mexico and then moved towards the Yucatan and lastly hit Florida. It then would travel through the Atlantic Ocean once again, where it would finally dissipate over Scotland on the 9th of October of 1998. While now gone, the great damage it had caused on Central America and specifically Honduras had been absolutely catastrophic. After Mitch had passed, the true extent of the disaster became painfully clear in Honduras. Entire communities were left in ruins. The aftermath of Mitch was a humanitarian crisis of unprecedented proportions. In Honduras, the damage was so big and devastating that the then President Carlos Flores said that 50 years of progress had been destroyed. And he wasn't exaggerating. An estimated 70 to 80% of the country's transportation infrastructure was completely destroyed. The damage was so great that the existing maps were deemed obsolete. Estimates say that the floodings destroyed at least 70% of the country's crops, and about 20% of the country's population were left homeless. Heavy crop losses left many villages on the brink of starvation, while poor sanitation led to outbreaks of malaria, dengue, and cholera. An estimated 7,000 people died, many of them being buried without being identified, and in total, Hurricane Mitch was responsible for the deaths of around 11,000 people. However, things wouldn't be entirely bleak, as international aid, many of it coming from churches, poured in to support the affected, and even the locals began to show their support as well. ¿Qué lo motivó a ofrecerse como voluntario para los esfuerzos de reconstrucción en Honduras después del huracán Mitch?
Pues primeramente como cristiano me motivó el deber cristiano, ver el sufrimiento de las personas que habían sido afectadas por el huracán y pues aportar un granito de arena y por lo mismo motivado por el amor a Cristo, al amor al prójimo.
¿Cuáles fueron algunos de las mejoras o cambios más significativos que presenció en las áreas afectadas a lo largo del tiempo?
Pues las mejoras o cambios significativos es que en esas áreas, por lo menos donde me tocó trabajar, no volvieron a construir casas a la orilla del río y esas familias fueron trasladadas a lugares donde se les construyó nuevamente sus viviendas.
¿Cómo afrontó usted personalmente las exigencias emocionales y físicas del trabajo voluntario en una zona afectada por el desastre?
Pues una de las cosas que me movió fue el agradecimiento a Dios porque personalmente no había pasado por una situación como esa y eso me movió emocionalmente a poder ser agradecido y poder ayudar a estas personas.
¿Puedes compartir algunos de los momentos más desafiantes?
Pues desafiante diría yo fue el hecho que cuando quisimos llevar alimentos a personas que todavía no podían salir por la inundación, llegamos hasta cierto lugar de la carretera y no pudimos continuar porque ya no había carretera, estaba inundada de agua y tuvimos que improvisar balsas para poder llevar los alimentos a las personas que estaban atrapadas.
¿En qué proyectos estuvo involucrado durante el proceso de reconstrucción?
Pues siempre recibimos ayudas de iglesias en Estados Unidos por medio de nuestra iglesia y logramos construirles 22 viviendas básicas a personas que habían perdido sus casas, que vivían a la orilla del río. A 22 familias se les pudo volver a reconstruir su casa en una área ya que no era inundable.
Over time, the resilient spirit of the people prevailed, and while the country recovered, many scars were never closed. However, this shows us that with our faith in God, not even the mightiest hurricanes can extinguish the indomitable flame that is the human spirit. Thanks for watching.